So we're disconnected from ourselves, then we're disconnected from others. And then that creates more disconnection in communities, our families, and our work environments. And that's not the case. We have those things to help us to regain that connection. And so during this time where there's so much dissent and then so much cultural erasure, you see monuments being dismantled, books being rewritten, and so many untruths being told, and people are confused about what's true and what's not true. So this is especially a time when we have to go back to basics to begin to piece together who we are, because without that understanding, then everything else becomes more difficult. But you don't need a whole bunch of things to start. You just need that one small piece.
Your business's success depends on relationships with customers, relationships with employees, and relationships with stakeholders. What do they all have in common? They're all human, because no matter if your business is B2B or B2C, it's really H to H, human to human. Welcome to the Human Connection Podcast. I'm your host, Carl Ponto. Each week, I'll bring you stories, insights, and practical advice from experts that you can apply to your growing company and daily life. This week, I'm excited to connect with Tami Garcia. She is a heritage reconnection coach with an MBA and decades of experience helping people navigate cultural identity. Author of Rediscovering Your Roots, she was raised disconnected from her Dominican and Jamaican heritage and now raises her Ethiopian daughter while world schooling in Merida, Mexico. Tami knows firsthand the challenges and beauty of cultural reclamation and empowers individuals and communities through coaching, workshops, and global conversations to reconnect with their roots and heal from cultural disconnection. Through her book and the Cultural Roots Reconnection Club, an online community with monthly live sessions, resources, and support, she's inspiring a movement to help people move from cultural disconnection to daily confidence and pride. Congrats on inspiring a movement to help people move from cultural disconnection to daily confidence and pride, and welcome to the Human Connection Podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
So I think what you're helping people with is really important. Can you actually turn the volume down? I'll just cut this little part. I can hear an echo now.
On mine?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Okay, I can't hear it anymore. I think you turned your volume up a little bit, and I could hear my echo all of a sudden.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so I'll cut all this right after I welcome you to the show, and then I'll just start into the first question here. I think it's really important the work you're doing, because so many of today's professionals, as people today, don't really know themselves on a deep enough level to really connect with other people. And so one of the big differences between, say, someone who's in an executive role and someone who's in a leadership role is having that ability to connect with people on a more personal level. So I'd love to hear more about how you work with people to reclaim their identity and how important that is.
Mm-hmm. So what I do is a little different around the heritage reconnection work. It's new, right? And so heritage reconnection is really about helping people understand who they are culturally, and regardless of how much they already know. A lot of people believe that you have to have a lot of information to connect culturally and to your heritage. But I believe that, and what I teach is that your heritage is already yours, and it only takes one small piece to connect. So I support individuals around that work.
And so tell me more about that work and how it impacts people.
So the work of helping people to really understand who they are starts from the belief that you only need one small piece to begin, right? And so when people begin the work of that one small piece, it's what we call a fragment. And so we take whatever you have. You start in this work, you start from whatever you have, and you build from that point. So from that fragment, we help to take that and help you to understand how that one small piece connects to who you are. And from that point, building out your heritage. And that's how the identity and the belonging begins. Because when you know more of who you are and you're better able to connect with that, with yourself, then you're better able to connect with others as well.
So take us through the process of like when you work with someone, what are some of these fragments they start with, and what's that journey like when they expand and build upon that fragment?
Mm-hmm. So a fragment can be literally anything, right? A fragment could be a photo, a DNA result. It could be an artifact. It could be a saying, a superstition. It can even be a silence about that I wasn't raised with this piece. So starting with whatever you have. And so then taking that piece and learning more about that piece. But the difference is that we take them through the heritage fragment framework and utilize an AI enhanced model that I created. And so we start with the person, because a lot of the work that people do is outside of themselves and they don't really take themselves into consideration. So our baseline is someone starting with who they are and doing that work and writing down all of the things that they know about their heritage, their beliefs, the traditions, whatever they know, things that they're interested in, and then who they are today. Because starting from this baseline, this is what creates something that's personalized versus generic. So once we have that information and then have that one small piece, then they're able to create like context within to build the context. So for instance, I use my baseline to with a fragment, which is my great grandmother's rocking chair. And for years, I had been looking at this rocking chair, and I had this affinity for the rocking chair only because it was my great grandmother's, but I didn't know anything about it. But once I started researching more into the rocking chair, into the background of the rocking chair, how it ended up in the United States from Jamaica over 100 years ago, and the heritage, the traditions and the cultures that came with that, and then looked at who I was, then I started understanding that this one piece of furniture held identity. It was where generations of our family, where they were loved and nurtured, and the rocking chair would have meant why they brought it across the waters, because the furniture was something around gathering, and how they held it was on porches. And so there was this whole stories and histories behind it. And then for me, it had me to look at the rocking chair differently for myself and my family. And even to the extent of, I have a great affinity for pieces of furniture. And so that helped me to understand. So these fragments, once you have the context, it helps you to have a better relationship and connection with it. And through many small fragments that might look very ordinary or uninteresting, once you start putting together these small fragments, then you get a larger picture of who you are and your identity.
I love that explanation of how and why this rocking chair means so much to you. And I think it reveals how powerful the stories behind the objects are, because to someone else, they're gonna, oh, that looks like an old chair. But because you understand the stories behind it, the people that sat in it, and how long it's been around, how far it traveled to get where it is in your house today, it has a lot more meaning to it. And I think there, in general, at least in like the Western world, we're focused on accumulating stuff, but not really assigning a whole lot of value to stuff. And so the things we have in our homes that we're surrounded by, we don't have as much of a connection because the story behind them doesn't carry that as much weight as this rocking chair does to you. And so I think the societal or cultural habits that, at least in the Western part of the world, Western cultures, has watered down a lot of these stories that would have otherwise been passed down through like families and through generations, that would have kept people more connected to who they are and where they're from. And so it sounds like one of the important things that your work delivers to people is helping them either find things that they might have just been stashed in a box or up in an attic that they already have, that they forgot how important they were, but also for people maybe don't have anything that has that pre-existing heritage, to try and find and build new ones that they can create the connections and the stories to, and then pass on, because that way you can rebuild the depth of the relationships that you have with the objects around you and the life around you, and be more cognizant of the way you're living and the people you're interacting with, and not just kind of coasting through life as much.
Absolutely. You said it all. You said it all. That's exactly it. So many of us believe that we don't have anything to connect to where we came from. So we feel so disconnected, and we believe that we're not worthy of this. So we're disconnected from ourselves, then we're disconnected from others. And then that creates more disconnection in communities, our families, and our work environments. And that's not the case. We have those things to help us to regain that connection. And so during this time where there's so much dissent and then so much cultural erasure, you see monuments being dismantled, books being rewritten, and so many untruths being told, and people are confused about what's true and what's not true. So this is especially a time when we have to go back to basics to begin to piece together who we are, because without that understanding, then everything else becomes more difficult. But you don't need a whole bunch of things to start. You just need that one small piece. And then once you have the one small thing, then you're able to take another small thing, right? And you said in a time when in the Western world, and we're just things, and we don't look at the importance of things. Once you start looking at those pieces and how they relate to you, I know for myself, it made me think about more of what I was bringing into my home and how I wanted to leave things for my daughter and for other people in the family. So now I'm looking at just getting rid of things that are meaningless and trying to figure out how to bring more meaning and understanding into the home and into the family.
Yeah, I that definitely resonates with me, and the having that. I was thinking, and it reminded me of something that I when I was thinking about what kind of why my most valued possession is in my life, and it's like I have this quilt that my aunt made, and she was an amazing quilter, and so she had made one for me when I was like an infant, a toddler. It was like an alphabet twin size quilt that was really tactile and awesome. But then she gave me this current quilt. It's a beautiful log cabin style quilt with purples and blues and reds in it. But And so not only is this one of the, like this is amazing piece of artwork and craftsmanship from a master quilter, but she gave it to me, I believe it was on my birthday, as I was going through chemo. And she had survived breast cancer once and eventually came back and beat her. So when I think about, like, if I wake up at 2 a.m. in the morning and the house is on fire, I grab my cats and this quilt and I'm hauling out the house with those three things, because it is the most important thing in my life. It's on my bed right now. And it's something that to anyone else, it would feel, oh, it's a nice quilt. But because it has the stories behind it, like you said, it has a lot more weight than anything else that I own. And it's because it's represents me and the sort of impact I want to have on the world, and influences the way it represents the way I see the world. And there's so much more value to it than just the physical atoms that make up the quilt itself. And so I think it's for individuals and people who want to connect as a leader with their teams. I can see how understanding and identifying objects like that in their life and then sharing that with their teams allows them to build connection and culture in their workplaces that is much more robust than like a Friday pizza party kind of token gesture. But when you're actually connecting with people and you're getting to know them and you're sharing these sorts of stories, and you learn what people value in their lives, where they're coming from, that's such a catalyst for connection that most executives don't have in their tool belt.
Right, because organizations are made up of people, right? And so people are just identity, values, and cultural context. So once people acknowledge it or not, it's like when companies give that space for that cultural expression, then like trust rises. And they'll have better communication, and the camaraderie, conflict decreases, retention improves. So all those different things. So I think what you said, the difference between executive and leaders, executives are, they want to get to that bottom line. What's our bottom line? What do we have to get out? We don't want to think about any of these other things because they don't matter. But a real leader understands it's those other pieces that make this business community, as you will. And so to value that, then it makes such a difference.
Yeah, and it kind of removes a lot of the friction to getting to that bottom line that the executives care about. And so I'd imagine if we kind of touched on you want to find that one piece or that little fragment that helps start this journey that you help people on. But what's the way they can identify that first fragment? Do you have any tips for people that they can apply if they're looking for that first fragment to get this process going?
Something that it's probably something that's just sitting there, something that they have thought about often, that they use often, that's part of their daily routine, that they know that comes from maybe it's something their mother said or their grandmother said, or if they don't even have that connection, if they were adopted or something like that, then something that they're curious about, something that has stuck with them from that particular heritage group. And just to take something just like really small, or even if it's the DNA results, you found out, oh, I'm really, I'm whatever percentage, or, I'm this, what does that mean for me? Then to just take one small piece and use that from the country and start to build from that. You just want to take something small. I know myself and many of us, we always think everything has to be enormous, very grand gestures and things. I'm guilty of that. But no, just take one small piece, a song, you know, a word, just anything, and then start researching that one small thing and looking at how it can connect to your life today once you start researching it. And I always tell people, because our tool that we use with inside my community, it is AI enhanced for all the pieces and all the things that we have set up. But to take what you have and what you know and use AI. AI is a help, it's a helpmate, and put everything that you know about this one small piece, who you are, and tell it what you're trying to do, what you hope to gain from it, and see what you get back from it. And that's how you start, with one small piece. So if you do that for one fragment and then do it for the next fragment, and then you keep building up on that, you'll start gaining a whole different perspective.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for connecting with me today, Tami. If you enjoyed this episode of the Human Connection podcast, please like, leave a review, and share it. If you want to connect with either of us, check out the links in the show notes. And remember, no matter if your business is B2B or B2C, it's really H to H, human to human. Happy connecting.